Welcome to the Honor the Gift podcast. I am your host, Art McCracken. I specialize in transformational leadership and high-performance coaching. I've worked with hundreds of companies and thousands of individuals along the way, helping them achieve greater outcomes in all aspects of their life. I'm a speaker and writer, but at the end of the day, none of that holds a candle to being a husband, father, and friend. I believe the greatest gift in our mortal existence is the gift of choice. How we honor that gift will shape the eternities. I also believe that career is a way of being and not just a way of life. And when you figure that out, by learning to let go of the charades and leaning into growth, life just seems to unlock itself. I know this because I've lived it. Quite simply, my calling is people experience living true. Thank you for being here. Thank you for making the commitment to lean into growth. I honor your journey. Now, let's do this. Hello, friends, and welcome to another weekly episode. This week's topic is Wodoto. What the what? What is that word and what does it mean? Well, it's an acronym for a concept I was taught by two of my dear friends, Alan and Noel. Wodoto stands for watch one, do one, teach one. If any of you know me well, you'll know that this phrase means a lot to me. In fact, it's something that has so much resonance for me personally that it governs how I lead in all aspects of my life. This isn't a new concept, but it is one that has become much more meaningful for me as a leader in my own home, in the communities that I serve, and in the organizations that I lead. Watch one, do one, teach one is a concept developed to help you translate receipt into service. It's a formula for growth. It's a system of replication and expansion. What it implies is that anytime you learn something that resonates with you, it brings value to your life, it makes sense, that it's incumbent upon you as you internalize it and you put it into play in your life, that you don't just leave it there, that you do something with it, that you go and teach someone the very thing that had the impact in your life, that you give that to them as an offering in hopes that they too will implement or to internalize or take into their life similarly, or even beyond how you might have used it in your own sense. On fatherhood, or being a parent, the calling and stewardship starts from day one. Will you own it or neglect to or wait for opportunities? In my own life as a father, I see many opportunities missed. I see opportunities that I've taken, and I'm finding that the more opportunities I take to teach, to exercise patience, to provide value, and to think of the impact that that lesson or that teaching might have in their life. I have three beautiful children. One story comes to mind that is very recent. It was this last weekend. I had the opportunity to go on a photo shoot and kind of a little adventure and excursion with some friends, and my son, who's been asking for a while now to have me teach him how to take photos. And he wanted to come with me sometime. He's asked and said, hey, when you go out next, can you take me with you? And I've kind of pushed that off, and this was a perfect opportunity to embrace it. So I loaded him up, I got him equipped with some gear, and we took off, went out on the road, went into northern, I guess it'd be northwestern Montana, and my sole intention was just to spend time with him and to take him with me on a little photo adventure. And so I had that opportunity, and I had the opportunity as we drove to Montana to teach him things that I had learned even recently that had helped me take a better picture, to have a better experience. But it was translating that knowledge into a teaching aspect, something that I could pass on and share with him that he could implement in his now journey to enjoy something that not only his dad does, but something that he has a passion for, or at least an early desire to learn more about. So it was a great opportunity. Again, watch one, do one, teach one. I have great mentors in my life. Photography was something that I wanted to take on as a hobby and an opportunity to express the things that I see that I feel are beautiful in this world, that I see with my eyes, being able to put that in a medium to be able to share it with others. Again, it goes back to that watch one, do one, teach one. That's a physical seeing of something, doing something with it, and then passing it along. And so that's on fatherhood or on parenting. On business, again, the calling and the stewardship starts from day one. Will you own it or neglect it, or wait for opportunities? An example of that might be coaching others to engage in the human dynamic and to find a level of organizational maturity that fosters growth and collaboration with others around them. If it's something that I've learned and developed in my own career, found ways to do it or not to do it, am I sharing that and coaching others to be able to learn from the lessons that I've learned and to put them into practice, to both experience failures and successes, but to learn from those quickly and to learn from the collective knowledge of those around them to be able to strengthen the organization. On mentorship in general, the calling and the stewardship starts from day one. Will you own it or neglect it, or wait for opportunities? An example of that might be, in fact, as I think back in my life, I've had lots of opportunities to mentor others. But one specific moment comes to mind, and it will always take me back to standing in a line at a learning event where I was there to engage and to learn and grow and develop. And as I was standing in line, this timid young couple came up to me and started to talk. And right out of the gate, they asked me a question. Didn't expect this question at all, but they asked me a question with a lot of humility behind the question. The question came from these two unassuming college students that were new in their marriage, new in their pursuit of career, and they asked me, what are 3 pieces of advice that you would give us as we start our lives together and our career? And I had to really think about that. I sat there and I evaluated what's been the most valuable things in my life. What have I learned if I were to do it again or be in their shoes? What are the things that I would do and take on head on without risk, without worry, but boldly claim a pathway in life of congruency. And as I had an opportunity to share with them my thoughts and to really break that down to 3 things, it was a moment I reflect on often, because you never know when you're going to be called upon to teach. You never know when you're going to be called upon to mentor someone else or to offer advice or to share with someone the lessons learned in your own life. Hello, friends. Thank you for tuning in. Hope you're enjoying this week's episode. If personal growth and development is your thing, and you're here learning and leaning into growth, glad you're here, glad you're part of the community. If you want more of this, make sure and hit subscribe in this podcast platform or any of your favorite podcast platforms. Search for Honor the Gift podcast and make sure and subscribe so that it shows up each week with new updates, new conversations, new learning, new ideas and concepts, again, to help us all in this journey we call growth and how we make it through life and the way that we show up for others. Also, if you are looking for more information, deeper dives into some of these conversations, and just an update to stay in the loop, you can always go to choiceisthegift.com and click on subscribe, where you'll be in the loop on things that are upcoming and more updates on this podcast. Again, thank you for being here. Now let's get back to the episode. And so in that moment of mentorship, again, The calling was now. The stewardship started from that moment, in that moment. And I could have ignored it, said, hey, can't really think of anything, get back to me, I'll email you, think about that more. But it was in that moment that it gave me an opportunity to step up and again exercise, watch one, do one, teach one. What had I learned? What had I lived through? What could I then share that could be of value, that could have an impact in their life? So the question, will we be ready when the opportunity presents itself, or will we be so self-absorbed that we will miss or blatantly avoid the responsibility of presence? You see, our ego will get in the way in a number of ways if we allow it to. Here are a few questions that might come up when we're battling that ego in the moment of stewardship, the moment of teach one. What do I even have to offer? What if I lead them astray? I'm not an expert, so I shouldn't put myself out there. What if they take what I teach them and they surpass me? What if they take what I teach them and they become my competitor? What if they aren't willing to learn? We could make a long list of the reasons not to learn, to try, or to avoid teaching, all of which are self-serving in the grandest sense. All will stop progression on both sides of the coin and will not further develop others. You see, when we fail to pass the gift along, we fail the gift. You see, the gift was never ours to keep. It was ours to learn from and to help others develop alongside us. We each come into this world at different times. Legacy. Do we have a clear vision for what we can be, or better yet, what we and others can become in our best state? Are we intentional about our stewardship? And do we look for the lessons which require a level of openness to then designate time and resource to developing others with the gifts we have been given? In Lin-Manuel Miranda's Broadway spectacular Hamilton, the song Dear Theodosia, found in Act 1, is a great example of the vision and relational awareness stewardship calls for. The setting is the parallel private reflection of two foes preparing for a duel against one another, reflecting on their own legacy and silently sending their last message of hope and direction to each of their treasured posterity. You'll hear of a commitment to not make the mistakes of former generations and to give their very best to the upcoming generation, their own children, as they visioneer growth and substantive work from the gifts they leave behind. If you haven't had a chance to listen to it yet, do so. It's a brilliant and heartfelt piece. I also believe it's a tremendous example of how someone uses their own art and gifts to share and teach perspective and lessons learned. It took me a long time in my own life to get beyond the take and to recognize that impact and influence are of an opportunity to serve and to build a better tomorrow, both in myself and in others, as I share inspired lessons and insights with others along the way. As some of us age or experience progress and success, be cautious not to become hardened and protective. Let us continue to embrace the sandbox scene of earlier years where our interest was simply sharing and building. Much of the genesis behind this podcast and the book I'm writing is for that very reason. It's a way for me to honor the gifts I have been given by passing along the lessons learned in hopes that they will take root and have an impact in someone else's life as they have in mine. When it comes to serving others, instead of asking yourself, what can I get? Try engaging in the dialogue and associated actions when asking, what can I give? That's the very essence of watch one, do one, teach one. Being aware enough to know what you've been given, how it's impacted your life for good, and how or who you might share that with. See in others what they might not see in themselves and give them of your substance, so they too might benefit from the lessons you've learned along the way. Build, don't take. So I guess the challenge to each of us today is simply watch one, do one, teach one. Give it away. Give of your gain if it can help another progress. The opportunities are abundant. Someone else's growth does not need to be stunted as a result of our own personal insecurities. Remember that growth is always a choice. Until next week, my friends, make it a great one. And remember to always honor the gift.